Escaping the Chains podcast. I am your host, John Humphreys. I hope everybody's doing well today. So we want to thank a couple people before we get started. We have Delivered Media. Our friend RJ is mic'd up today.
Yes, sir. How are you?
That's the voice of RJ. You don't hear it too much. But Delivered Media, go check him out if your church is needing sound, video equipment set up, all that stuff. And he also obviously does podcast production. We want to thank Los Amores. They have been a big supporter of ours, and we appreciate them so much. And stop in there, get steak, anything. RJ, we did go. Anybody that listens on a regular basis, last week we did go after the podcast.
Oh, yeah. It was good.
We had a good dinner. Me, RJ, and his wife, Ashley. We had some good conversation, too. So if you haven't had a chance yet, please, please, please subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify, follow us on Apple Podcasts, give us a review, and share with a friend. That really helps all the stuff we're trying to do. And I think we have some cool stuff coming up. Can't wait to tell you about it, but it's still in the works, so you'll just have to wait until we get it figured out. So without further ado, on this episode, we have our friend Terra Chism, who founded Community Unity Network, which is, I'll let her get into that a little bit, but it's really just an outreach that it has had a huge and is a phenomenal resource in this community here in Grant County. So Terra, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Terra's basically family too. So I've got my God's Goon shirt on because Terra's husband, Brandon, those of you that don't know, is one of my closest friends, and he has God's Goon. He does podcasting. Obviously, he's part of the outreach too, but there's a lot of cool stuff going on. So if you have the chance, go check out God's Goons on YouTube. And he's also on Facebook. So go check him out, like him, follow him, subscribe, whatever it is. So Terra, tell us a little bit. Well, I guess this is going to be a pretty free-flowing conversation. So I had thought about maybe getting some testimony stuff. I don't know where we're going to go, but a lot of it is so attached to Brandon. It was like maybe at some point have you both in and kind of maneuver through that. So we had a little bit of a conversation in the parking lot. So I think we know what direction we're going to go. But first off, why don't you tell us about the outreach that you guys do, and why did you get started in that, and how did it become so massive? Because now you guys got you got whole semi trucks dropping stuff off sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it actually got started because we sold our house, and we had just finished remodeling it. God said, list it and sell it. I'm like, no. So we sold our house. It sold really fast. We had also bought a church because we were having like house gatherings at our house.
Yeah.
And our driveway, our basement, everything was so full, we couldn't fit more people in. Like our whole house would be full when we did these just little gatherings where we would get into the Bible and fellowship with each other, play volleyball in the yard. But so we moved into this church, which was supposed to be temporary.
Yeah.
And here we are 3 years later.
3 years later.
Yeah. So we turned a church into a house, and we were doing outreach. Well, while we were there, me and Brandon have just kind of done things on our own. We would do make Thanksgiving meals and deliver them. I think the first year we started doing that, we did 25 meals. And the next year we did 50 meals. And, somebody reached out to us from Dollar General and said, hey, we see what you guys are doing in the community. We would love to get behind you and back you guys on this. We're looking for more people to donate to. She said, do you have your nonprofit? And I said, well, no, but it can't be that hard. So, so me and my mom watched a YouTube video, and Brandon already had God's Goons, which he does like more street ministry.
Was that a non-for-profit or a LLC?
So God's Goons started as an LLC.
Okay.
But it is now a nonprofit, and we have no idea how it turned into a nonprofit. Like our accountant just said, hey, we think when you guys got this trademarked, that it somehow switched it over to a nonprofit, and we don't know how in the world that happened.
Is okay because he was trying to get his stuff trademarked. Is that why he got the
is
LLC?
trademarked.
I remember when he was going through that though. So
Yeah.
if you start branding stuff, it's not LLC 501c3. All of that stuff doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure that you're doing your LLC, and if you have any branding type of stuff, you want to get into that because he kind of had some stuff which
Yeah, so we were actually making clothes, and what we were doing with the clothes was selling them, and that's where we were getting profits to be able to make 50 meals and deliver it, and do different things. He owns a business as well, construction business, and God's blessed it and done very well with it. So we were able to take money from that and do things in the community. But when they said we needed a nonprofit, and at this point, God's Goon was not a nonprofit, it was an LLC. This was before we trademarked it. I said, I just don't think like businesses are going to like the name God's Goons. Right. It needs to be something more unified and that it doesn't have to necessarily be like a Christian organization, or it doesn't have to be so thug, so street, because I always told him I am not a goon. I'm not going to associate as being a goon or anything like that. So we then created Community Unity, watched a YouTube video, filed our 501c3, had everybody told me it takes like a year, 2 years. We got ours back in like, I don't even know, 3 weeks, something crazy. Like
so you got it on the first try?
So they kicked it back in 24 hours and flagged something that we didn't fill out right or something. Immediately filled that out. And I watched, like me and my mom watched all the videos of what not to do, things not to say, wording not to use.
Yeah.
And so we resubmitted it and got it on the first try. So the only thing was that we left one area blank that had to be filled out.
And the 501c3 is important for something like that because then Dollar General, I'm sure they're doing write-offs and stuff, and they need that
correct.
tax ID.
Yeah. But we
thing.
never went seeking it. This isn't something that we wanted. We just was trying to, have people together. I think that how we felt is when we were coming to God, we had more community being in the street and in the world than what we felt like we had in the church at the time. Mm-hmm. And we felt kind of like outsiders a little bit, kind of like we just didn't fit in anywhere. Like there was no box that we could check. So we really loved the house gatherings and just getting together, laughing with people, eating with people. Like I said, playing volleyball, cornhole. Had people over to swim in the pool. They collapsed the pool.
The pool did collapse. I think we were there when it started.
Was you? Oh,
at the
man,
volleyball
rough,
thing,
bro.
yeah.
We had
They were still getting in it. The kids
put
was
all these chemicals in it, and it was bad. But so I really don't have an explanation of how it grew. I just post things on Facebook, and I think that I just allow people to be a part of it if you want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to sell you on anything. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But here's what we need. Here's what we're doing. And if your church, your business, you as a person, if you want to join up and be a part of it, like, here's what we need and here's where we'll be. Like, there is no, that's why it was Community Unity. It's not a Terra and Brandon thing. It's not a church thing. It's not, I want all of us to get together. I kind of have this vision of like a hub.
It's kind of a church thing, but a biblical church thing.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying,
Yes.
opposed to like
not one church is what I mean.
Yeah,
not
100%.
Like this doesn't belong to just one body is what I mean. Like I had a vision of all of us coming together because I really see this Red Rover. Like, where you're like, Red Rover, send John right over. And they've got to like break it. Well, if we're always divided, it gives room for the enemy to come in. Yeah. But if we start linking up as one body, I feel like there's going to be so much more change and impact in the community.
Yeah, I think that's when revival happens, right?
Yes.
You get the unity. So now, how many years ago was it when you started that?
I think 3, maybe 4, 3.
So now, just to give people an idea. So now, like when you post that you're doing one of your events is what we'll call it, like one Saturday a month.
One Saturday a month.
What is the response from the community?
It's crazy. It can only be described as God.
Yeah.
For instance, today, a pallet broke, and I get a message from Village Pantry, and they're like, "Hey, we have hundreds of containers of frozen green beans, and these are like the exquisite ones with the garlic butter in there that you're gonna melt in the long string beans." And they're like, "Can you come and pick it up? And can you use this?" And I said, well, if we can't use it, because some of these things have to be out in a certain amount of time because of a sell-by date. And so I said, well, if we can't use it for our event, we'll distribute it to, Hope House or Open Heart or anywhere. Like, we're connected with different, like you, get a hold of you. Hey, John, do you know anybody that can use this? Or we'll set it out on our free stand, and I'll make a post, and people are pulling up in our driveway like within minutes, getting stuff because the need's so great. But I think the last post, I posted it, and it had like 50 shares or something crazy within an hour. And then I told Brandon, I said, I wasn't ready, I don't think, to answer all the messages that fast, because I think I had 100 messages of people saying, how can we help? What do these kids need?
That's for the school, back to school.
So this is end of school.
End of school. I'm sorry. End of
So
school.
I think what a lot of people don't realize too is during the summertime, a lot of these parents are falling through the gaps. Like, they don't qualify for childcare vouchers or anything like that. So these kids are getting left at home. And I seen that a lot when I was a pool manager at Gas City Pool. I ran it. And these kids are getting dropped off for the day as basically a babysitting service. And so the kids don't have food that they can cook. And if they do, it's probably dangerous that they're cooking, because they're at the age where it's questionable if they should be at home or not.
Yeah.
So what we do at the end of every school year is we get a basket or a box together, and we provide safe foods for kids to cook. So, things, ramen noodles, Chef Boyardee, probably not the healthiest foods, macaroni and cheese containers, cereal, quick drinks for them to get. And then we do some kind of outdoor activity, whether it could be coloring book and crowns or jump rope or basketball or football, something to get them off of the screen time and interacting with each other.
Yeah. So before we move on, the last time you had an event, how many people showed up?
Oh, well, actually, the last event was at Gas City Park, and it was raining. I think it was raining that day. And so we just passed out, we did Easter, what did Brandon call them? Resurrection buckets.
Resurrection buckets.
Resurrection buckets. He said, we're not doing Easter baskets. So they were sand buckets with, just candy and stuff like that. But then we had hygiene bags, things that people struggle with, shampoo, conditioner, razors, soap, laundry soap, that type of stuff. And I think we passed out like 200 or something like that.
You pretty much, every time you guys do something, you run out.
Oh, for sure.
Every time.
And then Christmas is our biggest. And so I can't remember, it was over 1,000 people that we helped for Christmas. And that started.
Was wild.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That was wild. So if you're interested in donating, I'm assuming they can get a hold of you on your Facebook or the Community Unity.
Yes.
Okay. So now, let's get into. We had a brief conversation in the parking lot, and it was kind of about love, basically. So you want to share a little bit of where you what you were saying to me out there, and then we're gonna dig in. So if you're listening, it's about to get real. But if you have. This is the thing, if you have young adults or if you're mentoring or discipling people, some of these conversations is really important, because if you happen to have been raised in a place where everything was normal in the way it's supposed to be, some of this stuff doesn't cross your mind that, they might be struggling. Words even change. This is what I told somebody one time, Terra. when you live here in Marion and you say, I dated this person, it means something different sometimes than if you were in Indianapolis and you said, I was dating. There it might have been, I dated him a couple times. In a community like this, if you went on a couple dates, you guys were basically together.
Yes.
So
I actually just had this conversation with our 13-year-old.
Yeah, it's so different. It's so language is so important, but so different from one background to the next, So yeah, let's just dig in to what you were saying out there. Let's just go there.
Well, we were talking about love. That is one of my favorite topics is love, because I think that's what it covers a multitude of sins. It changes us. God's love saved us, but we don't really understand what love is. So I think some of us were raised differently, like what you were just saying, is it can look different to everybody. But seeing this skewed perception of love and thinking that, okay, this is what love is. So, my parents worked all the time. Like we were talking about, overcoming different things. They came from very abusive homes, both of them. And so they were determined not to let their kids have that kind of life, but they were working all the time. So that meant that I was going to my aunt's house every chance I could get to go hang out with my cousin. So anytime mom and dad were working, which was a lot, and all the Christmas break, summer break, I'd be there for weeks over the summer. Mm-hmm. And so my uncle was beating the crap out of my aunt, and she was hitting him back. And then the next morning they're hugging and kissing and they're best friends. And so I'm like, oh, okay, this is what love looks like,
Yeah.
And mom and dad, they never kissed or hugged or fought or anything. Like to me, love for them was, okay, we're raising two children and we're doing what we're supposed to do. That's what love is. So I never seen my parents hug. I think I maybe seen them like do a peck kiss one time. So there was no interaction between them for love. I felt like their love was almost kind of like transactional, like, I provide this and you provide that, and that's what love is. And then I also was sexually abused by somebody that I loved. Completely forgive them. They're in my life now. But I loved them, and then they touched me. And so that's what love is. Mm. So then I get in a relationship with Brandon at 16 years old, and we had a very toxic relationship.
Well, you're both bringing in
because
your concept of what love is, which to be completely honest, with our background, from a lot of people's perspective, what we would consider love is actually control and possession.
Oh.
And let me clarify, I think we make these words toxic. Being a touch possessive or looking at somebody like that's mine isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm talking about like that next level of
protective
control.
Versus possessive is two different things.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's some other words, and maybe it'll come to me, but people will say like, I'm a little jealous. Well, it's not a bad thing. It's a bad thing when it can turn into the toxic, and it can transition into toxic. But with you two meeting, whatever he had displayed that was love, and then whatever you had that was displayed as love, it met.
Yeah, and created an atomic bomb, because his home life was terrible too.
Yeah.
So, and that's his story to tell. He
kind of was running the streets too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So he was well by the time. When did you guys meet?
He was 15. I was 16.
So he was already kind of well versed.
The day I got my driver's license, I put his head into the windshield. Car wreck.
Oh. That's awesome.
Yeah, that should have been the first red flag right there. Like, bro, run.
So then you meet Brandon, though, and you already have kind of a skewed idea of what love is, what affection is, what intimacy is. And then you two kind of just... Yeah.
Well, I was actually trying to hook him up with my friend because he was a troublemaker, and I was an athlete, got good grades, kept to myself more. I had friends and stuff, but I wasn't loud. Brandon is all consuming. He's always been like that. And So I was trying to hook him up with my friend, and he was like, I like you. And so he was very persistent. We went to a party, and all the high schoolers, so I think we were freshmen maybe, all the high schoolers were getting the younger girls drunk and having sex with them, taking advantage of them. And I guess that was their plan for me too. And Brandon was like, no. So he literally sat at the edge of the bed to make sure nobody messed with me all night. He didn't try anything on me because he knew I had been drinking, which kids do not drink if you're listening to this. You can't miss something you don't know. So that's my biggest thing is I wish I would have never picked up any alcohol to try to fit in. But he protected me. And so I'm like, finally, somebody that's protecting me instead of somebody that's hurting me or taking advantage of me.
Yeah.
And so that was his in. But that would become the most dangerous thing that he could ever use was that give take of hurt, protect, protect. And so that became very confusing to me.
So if with people listening that haven't ever maybe haven't experienced that, how would you explain trying to navigate and figure out what love is when it's been displayed in certain ways? Like, for instance, for me, when I first started coming to church, they would talk about getting intimate with God. And I was like, that's disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting to even think about. Because intimacy to me was nothing other than the physical act of a sexual act, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how I understood intimacy. Anything past that was so it's like get intimate with God, and it's like, that's weird. I almost didn't come back to church. So it's like it's weird that they're promoting,
I felt the
whatever.
same way.
But then you start to learn. You're like, okay, intimacy is so much deeper. It can be in conversations, like all of these different levels. But the misunderstanding because of the world I'd come from, not from my family background was pretty good. I mean, we had a divorce and stuff, but people loved me and loved me well. But then when I got to the street part of addiction and everything, I had no idea what love was. Everything was a transaction of sorts. Yes. And everything was a possession. Even the people, that I dated and stuff, we were all just each other's possessions. Very easily replaced, to be honest. It's like, oh, they left, So detoxing from what I thought love was. I also didn't think it was like an eternal thing. You get what I'm saying? I thought it was it's like this emotion that you feel, and then boom.
Well, I think what you just said about, they were replaceable very easy too. I think that's something that we don't look at enough too, because love doesn't just give up on people. It doesn't just go away. That's not relationship love. I don't feel like. My description of love now, I would say, other than the love of my mother, who's always been a nurturer and always been kind and gentle and persistent, unconditional, greatest mom. But learning what love is in a marriage, in a relationship, I would say I just learned that in the past 7 or 8 years. Yeah. I mean, seriously, because and still working that out because it was so toxic that it's taken me so long to undo all the things that I thought it was that it isn't. And biblical love is, we don't raise our voice at each other. We don't get loud with each other like that. Like, me and Brandon, we go back and forth and we play and we banter, and some people don't know how to take us. We've literally had a pastor from the pulpit, not our pastor, but a different one, say, I went on a marriage retreat with the Chisms for the weekend, and it was like the Jerry Springer show. Because we're very open. Like, what you see is what you get with us. Yeah. There's no, if we have something to say, we're going to say it. But we don't get loud with each other anymore. If we do, we're quick to say, hey, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have had that tone with you. I can't even remember what it was. He did something that upset me the other day, and he come into the kitchen because I walked to the kitchen. I was like, I'm just going to give myself a minute to cool off before I say something. And I walked to the kitchen. It wasn't 2 minutes later. He comes in there, and I knew he was going to try to come hug me or something. I'm like, give me 5 minutes to be mad. I don't want to hug you right now. And he's like, no, give me a hug. but it is love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not. Those are the true definitions of love, and I think people don't dive into what each specific thing is in there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The kind part. Me having been single since I got saved, I mean, I've been in relationships and stuff, learning all these things on the fly
Yeah.
with it has been so challenging. Like, what are you really? Because people used to be like, John, figure out what you're looking for, make a list, and I was like, that's corny. You get what I'm saying? That's so corny. It's like, oh, pray, have Holy Spirit make this list for you, and it's like that's whatever. But now, one thing after the other, and it's nothing against anybody like that I've dated, but just going into it not completely healed, but thinking I'm completely healed.
Yeah.
You know, and then you start to realize it's okay if I had a list. You know, if I had a list, because people think I'm rougher. You get what I'm saying? But then, like, I'm gentle. Like, I need to be handled gently sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes, Brandon's the same way.
you know, we look rough and all, you know, whatever. But like, I need a space to just be.
I call it coddling.
Yes.
So do you need me to coddle you right now? Sometimes I'll say that to him.
Yeah. Well, because
sometimes I'm being too blunt or too abrasive with him, and he'll look at me like, what? So you got to be careful. There's that fine line there too, because let me ask you this. When you're talking about kind, sometimes kind feels uncomfortable too.
Yeah, well, I think
because we're used to that toxicity of relationships.
And I think I've said this on here before, but I will probably say it forever. I feel like if you're affirming me and stuff like that, one of my problems is words of affirmation is my love language. Well, when you get to dating people that have been in other relationships and have been hurt, they do not affirm well. You get what I'm saying? They're like, I'm not gassing this dude up, but one thing with me in my history, even since I've been saved, is if you're not blowing my phone up and acting a little bit crazy, I don't think you care.
Yeah.
So that was a whole thing that's been, and I'm not there now, but it took a long time to look at it and be like, that's something lingering from my life before the cross that I still identify as if you're not tripping about who's liking my post, all of that stuff that's not relevant to anything. It doesn't have anything to do with level of care. You get what I'm saying?
I get that, though. I get that. So me and Brandon still, there's still some of that jealousy there. We're still working on things like that. Like, you know, let me think of how much I want to share. So if he will love a girl's post and she's not dressed modestly, I just had this happen with somebody actually, and I'm like, why are you loving her post? And he was like, she's a friend of ours, and I'm like, yeah, but that picture right there is completely inappropriate for you to be loving her stuff. And so, but in reality, that's probably an unhealed area for me. Because that is our friend. But for me, you just disrespected me in public on social media. Like, are you for real right now? I mean, that's real. But so I feel like every time I get healed, like, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm healed. I'm good in that area. And then God's like, nope, let me pull another layer of that onion back and make your eyes water here because you really got to dig deeper.
Everybody's so different that you have to learn people's tolerances to stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we, like we said at the beginning, I think there is like a healthy jealousy and a healthy like looking at somebody like that's mine. not in the toxic way that everybody wants to say, but that's my girl, that's my guy. But and I think with me having carried that stuff and that belief of like, if you're not frantic about me, you know, if you're not like, you know, if you're not having meltdowns, and even some obsession is good. You know what I'm saying? But like I'm talking. In my opinion, some obsession isn't necessarily a bad thing, but if you don't get mad at me, and I've said this before, so mad at me that you're throwing an ashtray at my head, do you really love me? If you're not like calling me 75 times in a row, do you really love me? And what I started to realize is like that system right there is what's keeping me away from, if I did make a genuine list with God, like I probably should have listened to people, nothing about that list would have me in a situation of feeling like that. I tell people this all the time, but my grandmother, she passed away, the sweetest woman I've ever met. And if I was to mold a personality that would fit, that I would want to be with, it was somebody with her, not in a weird way, but like her her personality, which was gentle, which, so when
you're looking for love in the place where you knew you had it.
Yes.
So that's what you're looking for.
And she was not throwing ashtrays at my grandfather's head. And this is the thing that hit me. When they were, doing her funeral, they said, we've heard from a couple people that she had the spirit that if a bull was running through a china shop, she could stop it just by her presence.
Oh,
and so
love,
it's like,
by love.
yes, she cared for people. And so, transitioning and be like, okay, eventually sitting down and be like, what is it? First off, understanding what is love. So the Bible does tell us, like, love is patient, love is kind. Those first two things are really important, because it's like patience. Yeah, and kindness, so then that means but what we do, I think what we do, especially as Americans, we read that, and it's like, I want to receive all those things.
I want to receive
all those things.
But what Jesus come to do?
Give,
serve.
And
serve.
So it's easy for us to look at that. I want a Proverbs 31 woman, and all of these things that are our concept, and women do it too. Like, I want a man that does X, Y, and Z. But it's like, what are you like? For me, I used to read that and be like, I want somebody that's patient. I want somebody that's kind. I want somebody that doesn't boast.
Here on the flip side, though, all the things that you want, are you willing to be those things?
That's what you have to get to that place.
Yeah.
You have to at some place be like, you know what? The opposite of the way I'm supposed to be is to what was not displayed to me by Jesus Christ and the people that we look up to in the Bible. It was never displayed to me that I should be looking at these things internally like, I want to receive this.
Yeah. Who doesn't, though?
Right. Well, you do want to receive that, but if you're not, what I've also learned is, like, if I'm not what do I attract if I'm not giving those things? So it was like, okay, God, I obviously have a lot more work to do. I know that I go and tell testimonies and things like that, but me looking at that in a selfish way reveals that's not even a healing thing. That's a spiritual, huge flaw. To if I'm looking at these things in the Bible, I'm like, I want to receive this, and that goes for relationships, leaderships, friendships, all of that stuff. It's like, I want to receive all of this.
I think we're selfish by nature. Our flesh.
Yeah, and then you get to a place, and it's like, okay, I think finally God's done the work in me whenever the time comes that I can be patient and I can be kind and I won't boast and I won't keep track of wrongs. I won't keep score. Like, really getting there, not just knowing it and not just wanting to receive it. Yeah, because the not keeping track of wrongs, and like in my brain it also is like, don't keep score, because it's like, I did X, Y, and Z for you. You want your relationship to go off the rails, you start keeping track of stuff.
Oh yeah, because that's when it becomes what we've always known. It's transactional, right? Mm-hmm. So it's this for that. Well, I did this for you. Well, did you do that for me with expectation of getting something in return, or did you do that for me because you love me and you wanted to do that?
Yeah. And I used to be mentally, I was horrible about that.
Yeah.
I did all this, like I'm some kind of saint or something, in all areas of my life, to be completely transparent. Even the kingdom stuff, it's like, I did X, Y, and Z. And it's like, this is, again, like, it gets revealed to you in that quiet place, which is so important. All of the, congregating and all of that stuff is so important. It's kind of what we do. But that quiet place of like, God, this is a tough prayer or a tough ask, but you're like, God, Holy Spirit, examine my heart. It seems so simple. And
you're like, oh man,
I'm a piece of crap, by the way I'm supposed to be living and the way that I'm operating. Yeah, and you'll feel yourself fighting it. But I'm so glad that He revealed that stuff. It's interesting, talking about love is like, I knew what I wanted to receive, and I always thought I was a giver, but then reading that, it's like, I can give gifts. I can give kind words, but to give you patience, to give you kindness,
Facts.
kindness, not just when I'm in the mood to give you kindness, but to be
That's
kind.
the hardest one for me is I've been working on lately, especially with all the stuff going on with the youth and the community and everything, is I keep telling Brandon, me first. That's what we have to apply. He just had a situation where a dude called him a B word on Facebook because we wouldn't give him something. And Brandon was willing to help him in another way, but he wanted help money, and we don't do money. That's one thing we won't do. And he wanted it now. He wanted us to drop what we were doing and come over there. And so that had been a while back, but it was all over social media. I mean, it had been shared and everything about Brandon. Well, then this dude gets brought back into the picture here recently and wants to come to Brandon's men's group. And Brandon's like, I don't think so. He's going to have to apologize to me first. But here's what it comes down to is that biblical love, real love, it doesn't keep records of wrongs, like you just said. It doesn't keep that. And so at some point, us as adults, if we want to cultivate change in our community, then we have to be the ones who says, I'll go first. I'll lay down my pride. I'll lay down my ego. I'll practice patience. I'll practice kindness and come sit at the table and break bread with me.
I was having a conversation the other night, and this is similar because it's like the internal thing. And it was like, we look at our kids and like, we want them to be on fire for God. And this was going to be a whole message, but like, I want to share this part. It was like, I look at my kids and I want them to be so on fire for God. But this was the Holy Spirit check. John, if you want them to be on fire for God, burn hotter for God.
Me first.
You burn hotter for God. If you want to see the change, and there is no miracle answer, because we know like the answer is Jesus Christ. Not everybody's going to accept and receive that answer. So for me, you know what I mean? If I want the people on around me to be more on fire, guess what? I've got to be more on fire. Absolutely. I've got to dig in. And it's not work, people. So like salvation and these things aren't work, but some of the refining process and growing in Christ, there is work to it. You have to read your Bible. You have to pray. You have to work on the fasting and these things. And that really checked me as I was having that conversation, because it's like, so I can wish and want this stuff for these people, but am I burning? Am I as on fire for God as I can be? And I'm not. I'm not even close. I haven't come close to tapping whatever potential that is as far as like pursuing God.
In the depths of my soul, I feel that.
So if I want them to burn, be on fire for God, and all this stuff that people say is like, I want my kids to be on fire for God, then I have to be on fire for God. Well, John, you're on fire for God. I am, a little bit of a fire right now compared to what I could be. So if I want them on fire, I need to become a bonfire. How do you get there? Like, I guess, you know what I mean? You just keep pursuing, and the more things you lay at the altar, the hotter you can burn.
I think with you too, though, I mean, I know you feel the same as what we do. We've shared the same struggles, safe spaces. But I think what's hard about staying on fire and burning bright all the time is what we do can feel very taxing and very exhausting. And something else that I've been trying to navigate with love, thinking about what love really looks like, is it feels like somebody always wants something from us. There's no genuine, just, hey, can we just kick it and hang out and talk about Jesus? There's always, we're always waiting for the ball to drop and the agenda to come out and stuff. And so I feel like you do burn on fire, but also you're exhausted sometimes.
Well, people are like, oh, you're on Facebook all the time. It's like, listen, people, like, the truth is, like,
Drives me crazy.
But the truth is, like, people have, and I know it's the same for y'all, but people have so much access to me, and then they'll get mad. Like somebody will send me a message, and no offense to anybody, please always reach out if you feel like you need to reach out. Like it is what I do and I love doing. But every once in a while, somebody will just start cussing me out, and it's like, I'm sorry I didn't get to your message in 15 minutes, but like I am a single dad, and I am, I thought you helped people, and it's like I try, I do my best, you know what I mean? But
I always do the Pinocchio thing. I'm a real boy.
Yeah.
Like I'm a real person with real feelings. Like I have a real life outside of what you guys see on social media.
Yeah, and so it does, and that's, I think, like protecting. If you're listening and you get into, and you're in whatever it is when it comes to like community outreach stuff, figuring out times and ways to protect certain parts of you, and when I say that, it's not a selfish thing. It's like our kids need us, my parents, the people around me also need a piece of me. And in the past, there wasn't much to give, and as my daughters get older,
and time becomes more valuable because you've missed so much of it. Yeah.
Yes, it's like I have to be selfish
going
with
so fast.
I have to be selfish with that too. And so sometimes, but people just have so much access now.
Yeah.
It's not like it used to be where you had a prayer chain, you made a
Where
phone
you
call.
withdrew to the wilderness.
Yeah. You throw your phone against the wall, because that's about where I feel like I'm at sometimes. It's just like I can't, and it's nothing personal against any individual, but it's just like the overwhelming.
I think a lot of people don't realize to the magnitude of how many people and things that you're doing.
Yeah.
And so the people close to because we get to see what you're doing, and you share with us a little bit more than everybody else gets to hear about. But I think too that everybody's need is so important to them right at that moment, because when we're in moments of desperation, the reality of it is it's like a drowning person who is grasping, and they'll grab a hold of anything that they can. They're just in a desperate situation, which you and I have been there.
Yeah.
So the problem is that we have so much empathy that we try to go and swoop up as many people as possible, and we're taking on water.
Yeah.
Gasping for air ourselves. And so Brandon's been really hard on me on that. Is I have like OCD, and so if I have unread messages, it just drives me crazy. And so I just keep praying for that, for deliverance, and that I don't have to immediately respond to somebody.
Yeah.
That if it's that important, that there's other resources that they can reach out to.
Yeah.
Because he's been telling me, Destiny has been expressing it a lot lately. Where
Destiny's your daughter.
Yes,
Yeah.
sorry. Peanut. Everybody knows her as
We know her as
Peanut. Yeah.
Peanut.
But as she's just turned 13, and she doesn't want anything to do with ministry because she says it takes all of you.
Yeah.
And so that's heartbreaking to me. If you're out here trying to help and save the world, and your daughter is saying, I feel alone,
Yeah.
that's really hard for me to hear. And so I've been really trying to deal with that area of, hey, okay, and I've not been good at it right now, but my goal is, okay, when at 3:40 when I pick her up, if she's got a track meet, or a track practice or whatever, I can be on it. But after 6 o'clock, you don't have access to me anymore.
Yeah.
Like, business is shut down. Why don't we?
Yeah.
But I've not conquered that yet. So if you figure that one out, you let me know.
Yeah.
But we've got to create boundaries, or we're not going to burn on fire because we're so burnt out.
Yeah.
Burnout
and I think
is real.
and I think that's one of the things that people don't people don't think about. So now when I have people, you get to discipling somebody or something, and one of the things I tell them is to protect that quiet time, because if Jesus needed it, I promise you,
You're gonna
we
need
need it
it
so much more.
Yeah, for real.
And to say all that stuff, I sit on my porch because I have figured out a little bit of balance with stuff. I sit on my porch, and I want to be clear here, and I praise God that people see me as somebody that they can reach out to, even on the tough days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, there was times I would have prayed for God to use me to do anything, and
Yes.
and now it's like I'll replay conversation, like all of the interactions. It's such a blessing. It's just a matter of balancing it,
Sure.
But it's like I was thinking about that the other day. It was like I was staying in a motel. I was invisible in my addiction and in my worst moments. I couldn't. I had to steal stuff to get attention, and that was from the wrong people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then
Negative attention's better than no attention.
That's it.
I used to
At
say
least
that
the
all the
police
time.
know. You know what I mean? But what a wild journey it is when God touches you, when Jesus Christ touches your life, and you're sitting there like, I have no idea. You know, the week coming up, like we have, you know, we're going to be at Cass County talking to some students, and you know, some of the things that are happening. It's like, what a wild ride, you know, and what an honor it is to have been chosen, or for people to see, some people at least, to see me as like, that person might be able to help. And again, people, it has nothing to do with me. I just know the direction I can point, and I know the teachings of Jesus, and that's what we try to operate in. So it's not John. You know, John's not saving anybody. I can promise. You know, he
I
can't even
always
save
say,
himself.
when people say stuff about what me or Brandon do, I said, it's kind of like the dope game. You know, there was always a middleman. So you
Yeah.
had like the big plug, and then you had the guy down here that you're
Yeah.
getting stuff. And so God just kind of changed how we are dealing in things.
Yeah.
And so I know some people probably aren't going to like that analogy, but that's how I see it is we got to be the middleman now.
Yeah.
So like, I may not have the resources, but let me connect you to somebody who does. I can't save you, but I know someone who can,
Yeah,
you know?
and there's biblical stories that tell us sometimes it's not okay to just look at somebody and be like, I know you're starving. I'm going to pray for you. See you later.
Oh.
You know, like the Good Samaritan, for instance.
That'll get me fired up.
Yeah. Well, like the
Yeah.
Good Samaritan, for instance, like, you know, that story was told in the Bible for a reason. And I think too many times, as followers of Christ, I'll call it, as followers of Christ, we, you know what I mean, we see somebody with a need, and it's like, oh, trust God, and I'm going to pray for you. And it's like, I literally have the resource. I'm sitting in my wallet, or, you know, my phone. There is a resource for you that may change your life.
For sure. For sure.
I have to share it.
Yeah, there's so many times where I don't think, I mean, there is stuff that we do that I didn't suffer through, but there's everything we do I can relate to. So like every outreach. So that's why I kind of feel like when you said, you know, how wild is it now? I wasn't even seen, but God uses me now, like all the time, like to the point where I feel like I can't hide, you know? So, but, you know, I give out dish soap once a month to people for needs, because there was a time in my life where I made, you know, $28 an hour, I think is what I made, which seems like good money. But as a single mom you know, Brandon was incarcerated. He was locked up in federal prison. And I didn't meet any of the criteria. I didn't get food stamps. I didn't get insurance. So they're taking insurance out. I've got a house payment, a car payment, 2 kids, no assistance for schools. At this time, you know, breakfast and lunch, you're paying for that at school. And I'm paying for that for 2 kids. You got school clothes, school fees. So there were times in my paycheck where to pay my bills and not have stuff on disconnect, dish soap was dish soap, laundry soap, shampoo, and body wash.
Yeah.
And so those things are important to me now, because God loved me enough to not just save me, but to provide resources for me to provide for other people, because biblically we are called to go do those things, like you just said. If it's available to me to give, you know, there's been conversations with me and Brandon that we've had where we just want to walk away and live normal lives all the
Go to
time.
Florida.
I always say I want to, you know, live on 14 acres and have goats and chickens and walk barefoot in the woods, you know, down by the creek, and have all those things available to me. But right now, God is saying, I'm providing you resources, and this is the season where you provide to my people. Yeah. And so I think because we walked through so much, we have empathy for people, and it makes it hard for us to turn off our phones and turn off the noise, because you and I have walked through that. We know what it feels like to be living in a hotel, wondering, how are we going to eat? How are we going to pay for this tomorrow? All those things. And so sometimes I feel like that side of it, that we walked through the fire for so long, that it's hard to just turn things off and kind of be quiet.
Be normal.
Yeah.
RJ, what you thinking over there?
I think it's great. You're doing a great job.
RJ he's a man of few words, people. So
Some days.
some days, believe it or not,
Would his
people.
wife agree with that?
Yeah, but
Probably not.
some days I promise y'all, me and RJ get on the phone and have we've had some incredible conversations. RJ,
Oh, yeah.
we've known each other forever now. I
Right?
feel like,
You were on my podcast first.
yeah, I was on RJ's podcast years ago.
Yep.
We bumped into each other. I would be, people would have me come tell my testimony. Like, you got to hear this RJ guy.
Yep.
And then this dude, y'all got to hear him too.
You
What's
need
your
to have him on. I'll go back there and run things one time. He can come up here.
RJ? What's your TikTok that you and Ashley are doing the worship stuff on?
Delivered worship.
Delivered worship on TikTok. Go check it out. You can hear RJ. Is Ashley on there too?
Not yet, but
Ashley will
we're
be.
getting ready to start.
You can hear them. They're amazing.
Very. Did she get her hair done, by the way?
Not yet.
No, she reached
No,
out
she
to me
needs
and she
to.
was like, "Who does your hair?"
Yeah. She's always looking for somebody.
I love it.
So we'll probably. So here's the thing: is Brandon I know is going to be on the podcast when we move the nights because he does men's group on Monday nights, and that's when we record. And I think we're going to have Brandon and Terra in together so we can dig into. I don't know if it seemed like it or not, but there's things we're trying not to dig into because it's like a joint, a combined testimony thing that will be really powerful, and we can dig into some of that stuff. So. But as we start to close, I want to just ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
If you being who you are now, were to go back to 15-year-old Terra, and you could tell her a couple of things, what would you say to her?
Run, girl, run. I guess the first thing that I would probably say is find Jesus. I always say I would go on Wednesdays. Some old lady would come pick me and my brother up and take us, but we just kind of hung out with our friends there. And seeds were being sown. I didn't know it at the time, but I really didn't dig in and get any biblical knowledge. I prayed every night, like, "Dear God, please keep me safe." But I didn't even know anything about God.
Yeah.
And so I feel like my life would be radically different if I would have known who God was and had that foundation and known biblical love.
Yeah.
So I knew what to give to others and also what to receive from others and what wasn't.
Yeah.
The other thing that I always say is you can't miss something you don't know. So I wish 15-year-old Terra would have never tried alcohol in high school. I didn't try my first drug. I smoked weed with Brandon a couple of times, but no like hard drugs or anything like that until my 20s. And Brandon was doing hard drugs our whole relationship, but finally I did it with him to, just try to captivate his time and attention. So
you were doing it to try to bond because I've heard
trauma
people,
bond. Yes.
Yeah, I've heard people say that before. Like I didn't really want to with my husband or my boyfriend or vice versa.
Yeah, he would always try to get me to, and I had no desire to do any hard drugs or anything like that. Even I smoked weed with him a few times, and I would projectile vomit. Like that was not my thing at all. But he was running around with other women, and so I thought, well, if I'll do it with him like they're doing it with him, then he'll stay home with me and the kids, and he won't leave all the time. He won't leave us all the time. And so that was just a nightmare. So God, don't ever try drugs or alcohol because you can't miss something you don't know.
Yeah.
Those would be the two biggest things. And the third thing I think would be that I can do anything that I set my mind to. Like God will provide everything every resource you need, every door will open that you need opened. If you truly believe it and if it's in God's will, it will happen for you. So there's nothing. I wish all the people that told me, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. I wish I would have known sooner what I was capable of doing because I would have went a lot farther, a lot faster. Not that he won't still use it, but
yeah.
But there was so much self-doubt and things, all this stigmas and stereotypes that were put on me, statistics that this is what you're going to be because this happened to you. This is what you're going to be because this happened to you. And you can't do that because you grew up poor. No, everything's available for me. Everything.
Well, that's why when the Bible talks about the power of life and death is in the tongue, like
It's
what
so
people are
true.
speaking, and then what you speak to yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to believe. I would have never imagined at
Because
my
you start to
lowest.
believe the lies that everybody
Yeah,
tells you. It's not everybody always says the lies of the enemy. Well, sometimes the enemy comes in the facade of people you love.
yeah.
I've had people I love tell me detrimental things to me that's taken years of undoing. Years. Like, no, that is not who I am. Why did I believe that when you said that about me?
When I started doing recovery coaching stuff, and there's been times where it's a little bit of a struggle. We're good now, blessed now, but I have people be like, "Why don't you get a real job?" It's like,
Brandon's grandma said that to me almost our whole relationship. She would say, why? So she loved it when I worked at Walmart distribution because it was a real job.
yeah.
But when I would I've always been kind of like an entrepreneur. I would do things that I had to do to take care of my kids and things like that. But I always had some business that I wanted to start or something to do. And she's like, why does she always want to do that stuff? Just get a real job. Well, what's a real job to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love her. She's one of my favorite people on this planet.
I think
but,
people
yeah.
just don't get it. It's like I've been praying, and I know the direction I'm supposed to go. I know there's challenges in my life right now,
Yeah.
but to hear from, especially like other believers, because that's where it always comes from. Why don't you get a real job? It's like so I can be like you. You know what I mean?
Well, so I
And
actually had this conversation the opposite side with Brandon. I had this the other day. So we have a friend who does something. He works for another company, and he could go out on his own and start his own business and be a millionaire probably. But what I told him is we have to also respect that on the other side is not everybody wants, some people want the simplicity of at 5 o'clock, I'm clocking out. My life is my own.
I think some people are called to that
Yeah.
because there's people that
Yes.
find true joy
Yes.
in that. You know what I mean? And their ministry
Yeah.
is no different than anything I'm doing. You know what I mean? Because they're amazing with their family. You know what I mean? The people they work with, they're a light and a joy, and they're necessary wherever that's
Yes.
at.
Absolutely.
But I don't know the real job thing. You know what I mean? Because it's like when people would say that, it's like, okay, maybe I am just. And this is the person they say is on fire, sitting there in my quiet time. Like maybe I do just need to,
No.
you know what I
don't listen
mean,
to that.
toss all this stuff out and just go get what people would consider a normal job. But I'm glad I didn't.
Well, and two, I always think, what do people think that getting a normal job means? So is that because you don't have, a $500,000 home and two trucks that you're paying on debt and no offense to anybody that's got those things and 4 quad runners and a boat and those type of things?
I would like to have those things, to be completely honest.
Yeah, we all would. But is it because you need to get a normal job because you don't have those things like them? Because I don't need to have everything that everybody else has. Now, are those things nice? Yeah, sure they are. I would like to have those things. But if it means being happy over having things because I'm walking in the fullness of my calling and my purpose, I'll take that and live with less. And that's taken me a while to get there too.
And I think sometimes there's going to be, if you're pursuing a purpose and something God put on your heart, and again, this can be anything.
Yeah.
You could be managing someplace, and this could be, I could be speaking to you. But if you know you have that purpose, there's going to be times. You can't receive while you're chasing. So I can't get, I can't get the promise while I'm trusting, when I'm beginning stages of trusting that this stuff is going to work out. So you're going to fall on times where it's like, I don't know, you're going to be tested and be like, I don't know if this dream is ever going to happen. I don't know if what I heard was accurate. Like, if it was, those things build faith. It's like, I know that I'm supposed to go this direction. I know it makes no sense to anybody around me, but I have to keep going, And I praise God that I did, even though I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
But to be wherever God has me today was I have peace and I have joy and I have the things that prescription pills can't give you.
That's a whole message. Yeah. Well, one of the hardest things that I had to do, one of the hardest seasons that I walked through was when Brandon asked me to take a year off from working. I didn't realize how much healing that I needed in being able to trust him to be a financial provider and being my security. And I was always the breadwinner. I was always the one who made sure the bills were paid and stuff was on the table. And so having to give up some of the luxuries that I did so that I could stay at home and do what I needed to do at home, that first year, I cried all the time. I cried all the time because I wanted things.
Yeah.
I wanted to know that I was the one doing this. I was the one doing that. I wanted to go get my nails done whenever I wanted to go get my nails done, and brand new car and this and that. Like, so giving that kind of stuff up. But I'll tell you now, I wouldn't go back. You couldn't put a dollar. There's no tag you could put on that, a price tag of, hey, Terra, will you go back and work in a factory and make sure that you have all of the boxes checked, versus sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice some of the things that you want. But in return, you're going to know that you're doing what God asked you to do. And so.
And God can be, like we said,
And God can be asking you to go
do
to
all kinds of different things, all kinds of different things. But when you
Yeah.
listen and trust,
That's what it is right there.
that's where the honey's at. You know what I mean? Like when
Yeah.
it's not honey at first. Sometimes it's a little bit like doo doo, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Eventually, you get to the honey.
For example, the lady at Village Pantry today, when I went to go pick up the stuff, she said that she was like, I don't know the word that I'm looking for. She was an older woman. She said, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but you're just intimidating because you do so much, and I'm just here managing Village Pantry the past 17 years and go to church on Sunday. So then I start talking to her a little bit more, trying to pull some stuff out of her. And she's talking about all of her employees have been there for 7 years, 8 years, and she's the manager. And she's helped walk them through these kind of crisis and this thing in their life. And one of their spouses had committed suicide, and she helped walk through that. I said, you don't think what you're doing is as valuable as what I'm doing? You come in here every day and you're showing them the love of Jesus and ministering to them in ways that I never could. It takes all the parts. So you think you're just clocking in as a manager at Village Pantry and you think what you're doing isn't significant to the kingdom? You're called. You're on assignment right now. That's just as important as me coming and picking up these boxes and delivering it to people who need food.
Yeah. So good.
There's value in all of that.
Yes. Listen, and the one-on-one stuff is so important. Sometimes people ask
Huge.
numbers, and I mean the Bible gives numbers too, but
It's the intimacy you were just talking about.
it's like it's that one-on-one time where sometimes a person just needs to feel like they're seen or heard. Sometimes I need to feel like I'm seen or heard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And understood. And that's about as important a thing you can do in any type of spreading the gospel or anything, is just hearing and seeing people individually. So
Buttons.
RJ, you got anything to add?
No, sir.
That's the
Y'all are
second.
doing great.
All right, thank you. So we want you to, we got some stuff. Go check out God's Goons on YouTube and Facebook. Really good stuff there. He has good conversations with people, especially that last one was really good. Then Terra is going to be in Huntington this coming Sunday at the Harmony Home speaker meeting on Mother's Day.
Yes.
That's at the Trinity Church in Huntington. I believe it starts at 6. We're going to say 6.
30.
6:30. It starts at 6:30 then. Our friends Chris and Rocky do an amazing job with that group over there. You should check it out sometime if you're in that area. Then Community Unity Network. You do have a Facebook page.
Yes.
Yes, Terra Chism. She posts a lot of the stuff on her personal too.
I tag it on Community Unity.
Yeah,
usually.
so go check those things out. Go check our podcast out. Follow it and subscribe. So Terra, it's been great having you here. Can't wait to we're going to get Brandon in here at some point and then have you both in. It's exciting stuff. It's good to see what you're doing in the community. And I think the networking that happens and getting people in connection with things that they need is so important, and it has a huge it has a huge impact on people, you know.
There's so many resources in the community that people don't even know is available.
That's one of the things we run into in communities like this is like, there's a resource for, I don't want to say everything because some stuff, you know, but there's a resource for almost everything and people aren't aware of it. It's sad.
It is.
It's a sad thing. So check those things out, people. Terra, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And having the conversation. It was good. I don't know if we have anything coming up, but every Wednesday morning we drop pretty early because RJ gets that thing dropped before I'm awake. So, RJ.
Thank the Lord for scheduling.
Is that what you do? Because I was like, this dude, you shouldn't have told me that. You should have just been like, man, I'm sitting here thinking
He's
RJ's
on it.
waking up at 3 in the morning.
That means I can post it later in the day, right? No, I'm just kidding.
I can't say anything. Like, if you post it later, what am I going to say?
Right.
I'm still going to text you and say thank you. It looked awesome. So check out Delivered Media, Los Amores. There really is a lot of talk sometimes about the community and the negative stuff in it, but there's a lot of beautiful souls here and a lot of people that are doing a lot of work for people. So many people that have a real heart to help. And that's one of my favorite things about this place. I get challenged. Sometimes it's challenging because you see the bad too, and it's like I just want to move. But there are so many beautiful.
There's bad stuff everywhere.
Yeah, there's so many beautiful souls here and so many amazing people. So we love you, Grant County, and the surrounding counties, but Grant County is where we're at. So we hope y'all have a good, blessed week. It's Mother's Day coming up, so happy Mother's Day if you're a mother. And I think that's all I got. Do you have anything you want to add before we sign off?
No, that's it. God is good.
God is good all the time. Glory to God. Thank you, Jesus, for putting us in this situation because this me and her and Brandon, her husband, we did you go to the methadone clinic too?
No.
Me and Brandon, like we came from, there's no reason that there should be microphones in front of us now for any reason.
Facts.
Unless it was like for a court thing. You know what I'm saying? So praise God for that. And you can change. So check us out next week. We love you guys. Harmony Home they'll be live too on Sunday night if you can't make it and watch. You can watch them there. So thank you so much. This is Escaping the Chains podcast. I'm your host, John Humphreys. We love you guys and have a good week.